The cold wind howled outside the sprawling halls of Nevermore Academy, whispering through the cracked windows like an ancient curse. Inside, the dimly lit corridors twisted endlessly, their shadows hiding secrets no one dared to uncover. It was the kind of place that felt alive with 1,000 unseen eyes watching your every move. Wednesday Addams moved silently through the shadows, her pale face calm but her dark eyes sharp as a blade. The new semester had begun, and the air was thick with tension. Whispers of disappearances, strange noises in the dead of night, and a growing unease that clawed at the edges of the students' minds. She wasn't scared. Fear was a game for the weak. But something in the air told her that this semester at Nevermore would be different. Her footsteps echoed softly as she passed the old trophy case, the glass cracked and dusty. A sudden chill swept the hallway, and for a moment, the faintest flicker of movement caught her eye, a shadow darting just beyond the reach of the lantern's glow. Wednesday paused, her lips curling into a faint, knowing smile. "Let the darkness come," she whispered, voice barely more than a breath. "I am ready." The days that followed were a slow descent into unease. Nevermore Academy's ancient walls seemed to close in tighter around Wednesday, each creak and groan a reminder that the building itself held its own dark heart. In the library's dim corner, she found a dusty tome bound in cracked black leather. The title was almost illegible, but something about the worn pages called to her. As she flipped through, faded ink whispered of an ancient curse tied to the very foundation of Nevermore. A curse that awakened once every century, demanding a sacrifice. The words clawed at her mind, but before she could piece it all together, the hallway lights flickered. A low murmur floated from the vents, soft and unintelligible, like voices speaking in a language long forgotten. She pressed her back to the wall, calm and collected, yet a single thought crept in. The shadows here are alive. And they are watching. Her dark eyes scanned the corridor as the whispers grew louder, wrapping around her like a suffocating fog. The air thickened, heavy with secrets best left buried. And then, a sudden, sharp knock echoed through the silence, not from a door, but from the very wall beside her. Wednesday's fingers curled into fists. She was no stranger to the unnatural, but Nevermore's secrets were beginning to claw through the veil. "Show yourself," she commanded, voice steady as iron. Only silence answered. That night, sleep eluded Wednesday. The whispers from the walls echoed in her mind, growing louder, more urgent. She knew she had to find the source. Guided by instinct and a thread of unease, she roamed the school's labyrinthine halls until she found a door she had never noticed before. It was old, rotting wood and iron hinges creaked as she pushed it open. Inside was a forgotten room, draped in cobwebs and dust. Strange symbols, painted in dried crimson, encircled the walls. A coldness seeped into her bones, unlike any winter chill. In the center stood a small pedestal with a faded portrait of a girl, eyes hollow and accusing. Wednesday's gaze locked onto the painting, the air thickening around her. Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind her. The room plunged into darkness, but the symbols on the walls began to glow faintly, casting eerie shadows. A voice, barely a whisper, curled around her mind. "You've come, at last." Her heartbeat didn't quicken. Instead, a grin played on her lips. She was ready for whatever waited in the dark. The voice lingered in the air like smoke, intangible yet impossible to ignore. Wednesday's eyes adjusted to the dim glow of the ancient symbols, now pulsing softly, as if the room itself was breathing. She stepped closer to the portrait. The girl's hollow eyes seemed to bore into her soul, filled with pain and desperation. A sudden gust swept through the chamber, extinguishing the faint light. Darkness swallowed everything, but Wednesday did not flinch. Memories flickered at the edges of her mind. Forgotten names, lost promises, shadows that stretched across time. The whispers grew into voices, chanting in a tongue older than the school itself. The air thickened with sorrow and rage. "Who are you?" Wednesday demanded, voice cutting through the cold silence. A soft sigh answered, as if carried by the wind itself. "I am the forgotten. The one who was sacrificed, so the darkness could live." A chill ran down Wednesday's spine, but her resolve hardened. Then it's time the forgotten were remembered. The room seemed to pulse with a life of its own, shadows twisting and writhing against the walls. Wednesday's gaze never wavered from the portrait as the voice spoke again. "Long ago, this school was built on a foundation of blood and betrayal. A girl named Alara was sacrificed to bind the darkness beneath these halls. Her soul trapped between worlds, forgotten by time, until now. Wednesday's mind raced. She had heard whispers of curses before, but this was different. Real, tangible. If Alara's soul remains restless, then the darkness will rise again. The curse is waking. A cold draft brushed past her, carrying a scent of earth and decay. The sacrifice must be made again, the voice whispered. Or the school will drown in shadow. Wednesday clenched her fists. I will not let that happen. But somewhere deep in the bowels of Nevermore, the darkness stirred, hungry and patient. That night, Nevermore felt different, heavier, as if the shadows had thickened and taken form. Wednesday walked the halls with deliberate steps, senses sharpened like a blade. Her classmates whispered rumors of strange figures seen in the fog outside the school grounds. Lights flickered in empty rooms, and an icy chill gripped the air, refusing to relent. In her room, the silence was shattered by a soft scratching at the window. Wednesday's dark eyes narrowed as she approached. Outside, the fog swirled unnaturally, revealing a shadowy figure just beyond the glass, tall, slender, with eyes glowing faintly red. Wednesday opened the window without hesitation. The figure stepped inside, voice like a breeze through dead leaves. You cannot stop what has been set in motion. She smiled coldly. I don't intend to stop it. I intend to end it. The figure vanished, leaving behind a single black feather, slick as midnight. Wednesday pocketed it and turned back to the darkness. The real fight was just beginning. Wednesday held the black feather between her fingers, its surface cold and oddly heavy. It seemed to absorb the faint light around her, swallowing it whole. She knew the feather was a message, a warning, or perhaps a challenge. Late into the night, she pored over the school's archives, digging through dusty ledgers and faded journals. Among the brittle pages, she uncovered the legend of the Raven's Curse, a dark power that could manipulate shadows and souls alike. The curse was tied to Alara's sacrifice, a force bound to the black feather as a mark of the darkness's will. Suddenly, the candle flickered, and the room plunged into darkness. A whisper curled from the shadows, "You cannot escape the curse, Wednesday Addams." Her voice was icy calm. "I don't intend to escape. I intend to own it." And with that, she slipped the feather into a small, locked box, her first step towards mastering the darkness rather than succumbing to it. Days passed, but the darkness clung to Nevermore like a second skin. The students grew restless. Some whispered of leaving. Others spoke in hushed tones of unseen eyes tracking their every move. Wednesday walked among them like a shadow herself, her mind tangled in secrets and silent vows. One evening, as twilight bled into night, a sudden scream shattered the silence. It came from the East Wing, a place long sealed off due to structural instability. Wednesday was the first to arrive. The door hung ajar, revealing a room bathed in unnatural shadows that seemed to pulse and twist. Inside lay a single message scrawled on the floor in what looked like dried blood. The darkness will claim what is owed. Her eyes flicked to the corners, where shadows writhed like living things. She whispered, "It's coming." And soon, the full moon hung low over Nevermore, casting silver light that barely pierced the thick fog surrounding the academy. Inside, the air was thick with anticipation and dread. Wednesday moved toward the heart of the school, where the ancient ritual chamber lay hidden beneath layers of stone and secrecy. She carried the locked box with the black feather inside, knowing the time had come to confront the curse head-on. As she descended the spiral staircase, whispers swirled around her, voices of the forgotten, calling her name, warning, pleading. In the chamber, symbols glowed within. Eerie light, casting long shadows that danced along the walls. Wednesday placed the box on the altar. The feather pulsed, releasing a dark mist that began to fill the room. She closed her eyes, whispering an incantation she had uncovered in the dusty tomes. The darkness surged, and for a moment, she felt it trying to consume her. But Wednesday stood firm, a smirk playing on her lips. This ends tonight. The dark mist twisted and writhed, filling the chamber like a living nightmare. The ancient curse fought to break free, clawing at Wednesday's mind, threatening to drag her into eternal darkness. But she held firm, her voice unwavering as she repeated the incantation, weaving threads of light into the encroaching shadow. With a final pulse, the mist recoiled, retreating into the locked box that now glowed faintly with a pale blue light. The curse contained, bound by Wednesday's will. Silence settled over the chamber, heavy but peaceful. As dawn broke, light spilled through the cracks of the ancient stones, washing away the shadows that had haunted Nevermore for so long. Wednesday stepped out of the depths, her eyes gleaming with quiet triumph. The darkness had been challenged and contained, but she knew, in Nevermore, shadows never truly disappear. They only wait.